Ludlam, and I've been working now for the Conservation District for about 4 months now as a meat technician. Besides being a meat technician, I'm also a meat verified farmer. My wife and I have a sheep farm 6 miles south of here, and we became verified August 31st of last year. And so I've been able to see it from both sides as a farmer and as a technician. My goal here is to give you guys a little bit brief introduction to what meat's all about. Our mission is to develop and implement a proactive environmental assurance program that targets all sizes of farms and all commodities, ensuring that farmers are engaging in cost-effective pollution prevention practices and working to comply with state and federal environmental regulations. Everybody's got a mission. That's our mission. We've got lots of partners. The meat program was developed by different organizations in the agricultural industry, plus government agencies. And as you can see, a lot of these folks got together, decided that they needed to have a proactive, voluntary program back early in the 90s. And we just keep growing. We get more partners every day. Some of the big changes was that PA 1 and 2 of 2011, the first bill signed by Governor Snyder, were about meat. Meat was then codified into law. It went from being a good idea that everybody was involved in to being now established in law. The incentives, there were three incentives are listed right there. Rather than go through them all, everybody has them right in front of you listed. The three different incentives that were put into law by those public acts. To give you an example of one, the first one is accidental discharge. If you were to have an accidental discharge on your farm and you are verified in all applicable systems, then you are not going to be looking at any kind of civil fines. You will still have to pay to clean up the spill, but you're not going to be looking at civil fines. This is a big thing for a lot of farms. For example, somebody has a large dairy farm, hauls manure up and down the road, accident happens, their tanker gets shoved in a ditch and they have a spill. Same thing would go with a fruit grower that's going to the next farm over, taking their spray rig down. They get hit by a car or something like that into the ditch and you have a spill. It's a really nice thing to have, backing by the state saying that they're a verified farm, they're trying to do it right, so we're not going to penalize them with extra costs. Part of the funding, and everybody goes, well, how's meat funded? Meat is also part of Public Acts 1 and 2. Governor Snyder put $1 million in the meat program. Out of that $1 million, 12 new employees in conservation districts, or meat technicians, which I'm one. They hired 2 new meat verifiers, and the meat verifiers, you'll see later, are the third-party verifiers that come out to the farm. We have 1 new meat engineer and some admin support, plus some additional funding to the conservation districts. Also, there's money collected through fees. Every time you buy fertilizer, pesticides, that type of thing, there's a little tiny excess tax on top of that that goes into the pot, into the groundwater fund, and then also helps fund meat. So how this works, first we have education, which, by the way, today is phase 1. You're here participating, and if you want to get involved in the meat program, there's a little sheet that I've got out there right here. Just fill that out and hand it in to one of us, and you will already have phase 1 taken care of. And we'll have a meat technician get in contact with you, regardless of what county you're in. Next, the technician will contact you, and they'll come out and do a risk assessment of your farm, at your terms, your time. We work it out with you. This is the Farm Assist, basically, just to give you an idea of what this is all about. This is the tool that we use. It's a list of questions, some that we just talked about, some that are for meat verification, and then there's also some in there what are current laws. And we go through this. We usually take a couple hours, depending on how many questions are asked. Sometimes it can take longer than that if the person's really engaged in learning more. We go through, we do the risk assessment, determine if there are any environmental risks on your farm, and then what we do, we develop an action plan to come up with what to do about it. And again, this is voluntary, it's confidential between you and the technician. The technician does not go off and tell everybody, you know, up in Lansing or anything like that. In fact, our data reporting, the farm is generated a random number, and that's all that Lansing sees, is a random number of the statistics. There's no neighbor address or anything like that. After we come up with an action plan, then again, it's on your terms as the farmer. How fast you want to complete. Sometimes it can take a couple months, sometimes it can take several years. There are several people I know that have been involved working at it for close to 5 to 6 years. And that is because of some things that they might have to deal with are a little beyond their financial means. And then what we can do there is refer you to NRCS for some cost share to get some things fixed if they need to be. After we get through the action plan, we get everything around, then we have third-party verification. That is when the verifier that we talked about earlier comes out to the farm, along with your technician. Sit down, go through everything, and basically going through what we did in the action plan, and then you're going to be verified if you completed everything. Once you're verified, you get your really cool sign. I'll give them to you now after October 1, if you want to put that out in front of your farm. Also, you then have that backing from the incentives that I talked about earlier. Some other things that we do. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Some of the things that we address through the farm assessment, we'll have how your chemical storage, and that is a big one for a lot of folks, is chemical storage. And that's one of those where I said it could take a couple of years because there's a possibility that your chemical storage isn't up to par. And what we're going to want to do is get you involved with NRCS, and they can help cost share better chemical storage. Same with fuel storage. Fuel storage seems to be an issue from time to time. We also look at well safety, and of course you can see that slide. That's a problem. Also, soil erosion. And we look at sensitive areas and other things on the farm. Why would you want to get involved in this? There's a whole list of things. First, most of us at our farmers have an environmental concern about our property. The legislative incentives do help. There's also up to a 20% reduction in your liability insurance through some of the Michigan Farm Bureau for one, insurance agents and other agencies besides them. They are one of our partners as well. Following state and federal laws, marketing opportunities, which is one of the main reasons I got involved in it. I have a web-based, I raise sheep, I sell wool through the internet, and I would say that's a perfect thing for my marketing my farm. I was able to use the logo on my website. Use it to promote my farm. RUP credits, restricted use pesticide credits. By going through the meat verification, we're just sitting down and doing a farm assist, there are RUP credits available. And those are on the back side of that legislative handout that I gave. Just being a good neighbor, doing the right thing. Also, access to cost share payments that we talked about. Right to farm protection. This is also big in this day and age. If you're a meat verified farm and there is a right to farm complaint filed against you, your meat verifier will be the one there representing it in that complaint. Because he's come out and he's signed off saying, you guys are doing it the right way, he's going to go to the wall for it. And that's a nice thing to have these days. GAP, audit assistance. The GAP program, food safety, we're there to help as well. Just improve management, which is something that I myself can say that I improved my management of my farm greatly by things I learned through the meat program. Go ahead. Some of our environmental gains that we've had, currently over 10,000 farms participating with over 1,400 verifications. Phosphorus reduction in surface water, over 550,000 pounds per year. A lot of things have occurred since meat's been around. Our verification status, part of Public Act 1 and 2 was the fact that Governor Snyder also, with giving them $1 million and signing the bill, said, hey, this is a good program, I like it, I want 5,000 farms verified by 2015. That's not farms, but we have over 10,000 farms involved in the process as we speak, and more every day. Right now, we're at about 1,400 verified farms. Every 3 years, your technician will get a hold of you, and you'll find out if you want to be re-verified or not. And then we come out every 3 years, make sure that everything's still going right, and get you re-verified. So we've got a ways to go in our goal, but last year, we've got some totals there. We had 28 livestock re-verifications, 97 farmstead, and 67 profit. So right there, that tells you re-verification. We've got 192 people just that year that thought, this is a good program, I want to be involved, I'm going to go ahead and re-verify. We get a lot of local involvement. Again, like I said, people are proud of the meat program. They talk to other people about it. We have community awareness, depending on the farmer. If you want publicity, we're more than happy to give it to you. If you want to let everybody know that you're a meat verified farm, we'll help you out with that, which also goes to promote your farm. Not saying you have to, but if you want it, we're there to help you out. We do press releases, such as these are some of the press releases that have been done. I can't tell you how much positive press I personally got with my farm. I was amazed. Next thing you know, my farm's pictures up on Facebook, and they did all kinds of good things for me. And again, like I was talking about promotions and marketing, that was one of the main reasons that kind of drove me into the program. Well, once I got into it, I realized there was a lot more there. You can use the logo. We have a contract we have with you that says you can use the logo on your products if you're selling it, or give you some little signs to take to farm markets if that's what you do to promote the program. People look at that and say, wow, they're doing it right. I want to buy from them. Again, like I said, people are pretty proud. This is my first verification. So, I know I didn't want to get too. Are there any questions? I figure this is, if I can get through it quick, we can talk a little bit more about the program. Go ahead.
There was talk later last year that MEAP would work closer with CAFO regulated or CAFO permitted farms. Has anything come together with that? Because you're close but not quite, and it's kind of crazy that we have to meet all the CAFO guidelines, but then it doesn't work with MEAP and stuff.
Usually, I think they're working on a lot of things up in Lansing right now. And I'm just, of course, getting little bits and pieces of it. In fact, I go to more training later this week, so I'm going to get the latest and greatest on what's been going on. But I know with the CNMPs that most CAFOs have to do, they're working tightly with that, getting the livestock verified. But then sometimes the problem becomes then getting farmstead verified can be a problem. And let me explain that a little bit. There's 3 verifications. There is farmstead, which is around the farm headquarters. There's livestock if you have livestock, and then there's cropping if you do cropping. Greenhouse is kind of a morph, that was the first one I did. Is a morph between cropping and farmstead. But when people drive by, they say, well, that's a greenhouse. So greenhouse is actually a combination of farmstead and cropping. You can get verified in one thing. You don't have to be verified in all 3. But if you are verified in whatever, say, for example, myself, I grow hay, I grow livestock, and I have a farm office. So I'm verified in all 3. If I'm verified in all 3 because that's what I do, I get that protection. If I were to only be verified in livestock, per se, and not the others, then I wouldn't have that extra protection until I get verified in all, whatever I have. If you only have farmstead and cropping, you don't have to have all 3. That's my point. I know I didn't quite answer your question completely, but I don't think I have exactly the right answer yet for you, but I can find out and let you know.
I think that there's a pilot program right now going on in Grand Rapids where the person that's responsible for the CAFO inspection will go out with the MEAP inspector at the same time. And I think that's what they're piloting right now to see. And it doesn't sound to me like there's going to be an issue because I think the MEAP person just checks 3 additional questions.
Well, that's the frustration. That's why there has been so few livestock people reoccurring, because we started with MEAP and then it was defunct and then qualified as a heavy development. It's just a lot more ratings. And then we can't get MEAP credit. So I think they're coming together, but I know there's been some frustration.
I know they're working on memorandum of understanding with the institute on several different issues right now. Josh Appleby, who used to work for the Conservation District here, so a lot of people might know. He is the MEAP verifier for Allegan County in the south. And I can take your question and give you a different answer to this one.
That's fine.
Any other questions? Well, thank you very much. I'll be around if you want to learn more about